Hello and blessings. We are in the Foundations of Faith course. This is our sixth lesson. This time we want to reflect and understand why there are truly so many who hate the people of Israel in the world. After we discussed that the people of Israel are a nation chosen by God, why does this lead to so much hatred? So first of all, as is our custom, a brief summary of what we have learned so far. We learned that faith is the strongest force in the world. We learn that we must not accept the theory of each person shall live by his own faith or freedom of religion. We learn that faith in the creator of the world gives us hope, faith, and the confidence that one day things will be good here, that the world will be perfect. The challenge of living with the awareness that the creator of the world sees us, watches over us, and guides us at all times is very important. We learn that the creator of the world chose the people of Israel to be his messengers in the world, to bring about the world's rectification, to teach the world the way of God, the divine morality. For this purpose, the people of Israel were given character traits and special talents suited for this mission. And we learned that this covenant will never be annulled at any time throughout history. But it is difficult, it is hard for us to understand why these people, this unique nation was chosen by God. Why is this nation so hated in the world? So we will examine this from several perspectives. I believe that by the end of this lesson, we will understand this unique, wondrous phenomenon a bit better. So these are the different points. We will now expand on them in our study. So the first topic, a nation of achievers arouses envy and hatred. As we know from our personal lives, people tend to hate those who are successful. It's not a healthy tendency, it's not nice, but it exists in the world. People have a hard time with those who are successful. A few facts, some data. There is much more than this. I just brought a little to give you a sense of it. So about 22% of all Nobel Prize winners over the years are Jewish in fields like physics, mathematics, computer science, and things like that. The percentage is actually much higher than that. About 11% of the billionaires in the world, according to Forbes, are Jewish. 44% of the world's top chess players are Jewish. About 40% of Oscar winners are Jewish. About 27% of Turing Award winners are Jewish, and so on and so forth. You can see this in all the prizes awarded around the world in various competitions, etc., a very high percentage. So let's say, fine, the percentage of winners who are Jewish is high, but what percentage of the world's population are Jews? Well, the percentage of Jews in the entire human population is about 2 per million. That is about 0.2%. This means that, for example, in the case of the Nobel Prize, we have about 100 times more winners than our share of the world population. In chess players, it's about 200 times more, and the same goes for Oscar winners and so on. In short, the gap is enormous. There is nothing like it among any other nation in the world. It really is a wonder how this happens. What is the reason that Jews win so many prizes? Books, articles, studies, and attempts at explanation have been written about this. One can discuss and debate the source of this reason, but in any case, it arouses hatred, and it also arouses hatred, and it also does not claim that this is not the chosen people. The fact that the people of Israel are successful in various fields does not mean that God did not choose them. It explains to us the hatred toward them. Yes, even if God chose them, in any case, whatever the reason may be for the hatred toward the success of Jews in so many fields, it certainly explains to us the hatred of people, because people tend to hate those who are more talented than they are. The second point I want to consider, a nation that claims to be the chosen people arouses hatred toward it. The very fact that the people of Israel make such a statement, that the Torah of Israel says this, arouses hatred. People tend to hate those who act superior. That is definitely understandable. If the world thinks that the people of Israel decided on their own that they are the chosen people, then that can certainly cause hatred. But even if he didn't decide, in any case, he's an exceptional people, a chosen people, and that provokes opposition against him. Of course, as I have already said before, this is true. We claim that we are a chosen people, but it was not we who decided that we didn't take this upon ourselves. That's how the creator of the world decided and chose. Many Jews would have preferred not to have this status, but no one asked them. So the people of Israel, by being the nation that carries the banner of being chosen to repair the world, certainly arouses antagonism and hatred toward itself, even though we do not see ourselves as chosen in a way that makes us superior to the world, but rather in order to repair the world. Behaving according to a high moral standard creates a kind of moral contrast with the rest of the world, and that is bothersome. Therefore, there is a tendency to hate those who act on a higher moral level. We are all familiar with this phenomenon in our own lives, whether among children, at school, when there is a student in the class who is always the first to volunteer whenever help is needed. Whenever the teacher asks for something, he immediately cooperates. He is the most considerate person in the world and the most sensitive to others, and so on. This provokes, at least in some of the children, hatred toward him, resistance to him, because he's essentially telling them, you're not good enough, you need to be better. Look, see how he behaves. So we find ourselves in an environment where there are people with a high moral standard. For some of us, this will arouse hatred and resistance toward them. And that's how we are today in the people of Israel. On the one hand, we see how the Israeli army fights with so much sensitivity and caution, trying not to harm those who shouldn't be harmed, sometimes even to an excessive degree, and because of this, we suffer damages and losses. So when the people see this, it calls upon the world to act according to certain moral standards. This threatens the moral standards of the world. So it's easier for the world to look for faults and shortcomings in the Israeli army. Why isn't it okay? In order to spare the world from having to do any self-reflection, when we see on a personal level someone who behaves with a very high moral standard, and that creates a moral demand from us, instead of raising our own moral standards, it's easier, though not genuine, but easier for us to find their flaws, which will excuse us from the need to actually make improvements and changes in our own lives. And so among the Jewish people, there are charity and kindness organizations on a scale that is simply unbelievable in the world. In so many fields and areas, these organizations exist. This creates a certain coloring in the eyes of the world. It sends a message to the world. So that's why there are forces in the world that oppose the Jewish people, because of their moral standard. A fourth point, it's not just a matter of being a chosen people, and it's not just a matter of moral standards. A nation whose mission, whose goal is to repair the entire world, causes anyone who does not want the world to be repaired to hate it or oppose it. We, the Jewish people, were chosen to bring the world to its rectification. So all the forces of evil in the world, evil is not only found in individuals. There is a way of looking at evil on a personal level, and there is evil on a global scale. There are forces of evil. So all the forces of evil unite together. They try to cooperate with one another, even if normally they are opposed to each other, in order to stop this process. That is why even today we see all kinds of collaborations that seem very strange. For example, if radical Islam is an enemy of the tyrannical Western world, nevertheless, today we see cooperation between radical Islam and the tyrannical Western world against Israel, against the state of Israel. What do they have in common? Are they enemies? They are completely different from one another, because forces of evil do not want good to prevail. They are global forces of evil, and they cooperate with each other. Well, we've seen this from various angles, but it raises a piercing question for us. Master of the universe, why did the creator of the world allow this, arrange things this way, let this happen? And this is something we really need to examine in the next point. The principle, according to the teachings of Israel, is that for every positive spiritual force, there must be a negative force that opposes it. This is how reality in the world is arranged, and through this opposition, the good continues to rise and grow stronger. I will bring a bit from two Jewish sages who spoke about this topic. They discussed it at length. The Maharal of Prague, a figure well known even outside the Jewish world, lived about 500 years ago. He has a statement, an important principle called everything is activated by its opposite. Activated, meaning it moves from potential to actual. it realizes its potential through its opposite. That is to say, there is an opposing force that resists it. From that very opposition, this force is able to realize itself in the world. Rav Kook also explains this in his own style. I'm reading here a passage from Rav Kook in his rich, lofty language, which is a bit difficult to understand. Rav Kook says, the existence of the world in all its systems must necessarily be opposed by a force that destroys and corrupts, striving for the world's demise. And as a result, many things proceed, and the strength and might of the desire for existence, the will to build, and the aspiration for improvement and elevation are intensified. And this opposition must be present in every realm of the world, physical and spiritual, intellectual and moral. This is what the Rav writes in his book, Ein Aya on Tractate Shabbat, page 89. So what does Rav Kook want to say? This is how the world is built. There must be opposing forces that resist every positive force. Out of this opposition, the positive force must strengthen itself and rise higher, and so on. In this way, it can progress much further in the world. Sometimes we see that precisely in the places where we faced opposition, where people resisted us, we actually develop much more than in the places where no one bothered us, where no one opposed us. Here's another perspective, the sixth one in this list. To understand the opposition to the people of Israel. Earlier, we looked at why people tend to hate the people of Israel for their own reasons, from their own thoughts, but there is also a divine perspective. Why did the creator of the world arrange things this way? So first, we saw this on the level of general opposition. Every spiritual force has an opposing force. But for the people of Israel, there is something even more significant here. So I call it the rod of chastisement in the hand of God. The rod of chastisement means this is a tool that God arranged for the people of Israel, because the people of Israel have a very, very special and important role. And if, God forbid, the people of Israel do not fulfill the role, what will the Master of the universe do? After all, we are obligated to bring the world to its rectification. So there are ways in which God guides us to fulfill our role if, God forbid, we stray from the path, and these are the opposing forces. So essentially, the opposing forces are meant to bring us back to the right track if, God forbid, we deviate from the straight path. That is why throughout history, there have always been enemies of the people of Israel who waited in anticipation for instruction from God. A hidden instruction, of course not, an explicit directive where God guides them when it is necessary to oppose and act against the people of Israel. Simply recognizing that being the chosen people of the Creator of the world brings hatred toward us from other nations. This also caused, even at the very beginning of the journey of the people of Israel, that there was fear among some parts of the nation to accept the Torah. Surely you've heard the expression that God held the mountain over the people of Israel like a barrel. This means that the creator of the world forced the people of Israel to accept the Torah. And the famous question among the sages of Israel is, the people of Israel wanted the Torah, so why did God have to force it upon them? And answer that we want to bring here is that the people of Israel were afraid that if they went with God's Torah, they would be hated by the world throughout all of history. So there were those who overcame this, saying the world will hate us, but that's not true. What is right is what matters, and we will go with it. But there were parts of the people of Israel who were stressed by this, who were frightened by the idea that if the world hated us and opposed us, it would be very, very troubling. In fact, even today, we constantly see that this is a force that weakens and opposes us from within. It's a completely different perspective on looking at the opposition to the people of Israel. It doesn't come from forces of evil in the world. On the contrary, it comes from good forces in the world, from those who want the world to be corrected and not corrupted. Why do they oppose or maybe even hate the people of Israel? Because they actually want the world to be corrected, and they feel, even if not consciously, but in some intuitive sense, they feel that the people of Israel have an important role, and that it is the people of Israel who are capable of bringing the world to its correction. So if you are in trouble and there is someone who can fix things, who can save you from this trouble, and he just sits there dozing off, not waking up and not doing anything, then man, why are you sleeping? Get up and call upon your God. So the world comes with a demand to the Jews. Why aren't you fulfilling your role? Why aren't you saving the world? This demand isn't necessarily explicit. Maybe not many people in the world actually think this way, but it exists in the atmosphere, it resonates, and there is a demand from the world to the people of Israel. In our generation, this period that we are observing, we see that the hatred toward the people of Israel is growing and intensifying. Today, there is a rise in anti-Semitism around the world. What is the meaning of this rise in anti-Semitism? Why do we see her? So that's true on one hand, but there is also a movement in the opposite direction. There are those who hate the people of Israel who are becoming more extreme in their opposition to us. But on the other hand, we also see a strengthening of those who love the people of Israel in other communities, which is also growing stronger. So the world is going through a process of clarification, of polarization. The ones who love, love more, and the ones who hate, hate more. And this also really divides the types of haters we saw earlier. Those who hate us because we are working to fix the world, and they do not want a world that is fixed. They want the world to remain in its filth. So the more they see that we are returning, getting closer to the goal, that we are making progress in our work, they draw their swords against us, all their weapons, trying to stop it. That's why we suddenly see all kinds of forces in the world joining together against the people of Israel. On the other hand, those whose opposition or hatred toward us is because we are not fulfilling our roles, they see that today we are more and more moving forward toward the goal, that we are fulfilling our role in the world more and more. They become our supporters. I assume that those listening to me now are among those who increasingly support us as they see that we are making more progress in fulfilling our role in the world. So, to sum up, what have we seen here? We saw that although there is a lot of hatred toward the people of Israel, this hatred certainly does not mean that the people of Israel are not God's people, are not chosen, or are not a holy nation. It is a hatred directed at those who are successful, or those who behave on a high moral level, or those who want to correct us, at those who remind us that we are not completely perfect, and so on. We can understand this hatred, but we need to take a step back and really consider where these feelings are coming from. Hatred, after all, is often born out of pain, frustration, or a sense of injustice. And it's important to acknowledge that these emotions are valid and real for many people. When we see or hear about acts of hatred, it's natural to feel a strong reaction. And sometimes we might even feel compelled to respond in kind. However, if we pause for a moment and try to put ourselves in the shoes of those who are experiencing these intense emotions, we might begin to see things from a different perspective. Understanding doesn't mean agreeing with or condoning harmful actions, but it does mean recognizing the underlying causes that drive people to feel this way. By doing so, we can start to address the root problems rather than just reacting to the symptoms. So while it's completely understandable to feel hatred in certain situations, we need to remember that responding with more hatred rarely leads to positive change. Instead, we should strive to approach the situations with empathy and a willingness to listen, because only then can we hope to find real solutions and move forward together. And moving forward, if anyone has questions, difficulties, concerns, or inquiries, you are welcome to contact me or the channel. My email is available here for you. You are welcome to contact me anytime. You are welcome to contact me anytime.